Well, I think what they've done is one of the most courageous and fearless things I've seen. I think I think to walk away from all of that, the public grief that we know about, but to all of that family pain. Well, we should think of the Queen as a great-grandmother, and we should think of Prince Charles as a dad. I mean, they will all be suffering from this hugely. And Harry has chosen to walk away from all of that to protect his wife and his children. And I think that you've got the analysis of the media totally right, that the angriest media is from the angriest people, or the people feeding Mr. and Mrs. Angry. But I think all of us need to look at ourselves and think of this as a family that's been blowing itself apart, probably no more seriously than many families are going through or have gone through and haven't been able to walk away. But we're thinking of these as, if we think of them as human beings, as sons and daughters and sisters-in-laws and mother-in-laws and great-grandmothers and great-grandfathers, our hearts should be bleeding for these two.
You're not in any way suggesting they should be bleeding more for these two than for people, stuck in a dinghy in the middle of the English Channel or living in Syria at the time, or even people using food banks. But it's not either or, is it? This is one of the great mysteries of our era.
It's not either or. And we are showing ourselves more and more to be a nation with less and less compassion less and less tolerance of different people, different choices. I mean, that was what was going on in the family. I mean, without knowing any of the detail or any of the personalities involved, it was differences of opinion, it's differences of definition of duty, it's differences of definition of loyalty. And for Meghan, what she was being asked to become was completely impossible for her to be who she really was.
It was "Can you protect us?" as well that resonated with me, or we just wanted some help. We wanted some protection.
Can you help me? No.
Because what we're being exposed to is different from what everybody else has been exposed to. So the fact that we're getting less help and support is the argument they made. It actually makes sense of everything. But if you don't understand, then you are much more easily manipulated into a kind of unfocused anger, aren't you, or into indignation?
And we see this with every rabbit hole and conspiracy theory going. The anti-vaxxers, the anti-maskers, the Bill Gates theorists. I mean, the sensible, intelligent people get hooked up in this because they're only exposed to their own bubble and they're terrified of being wrong.
I guess we are all terrified of being wrong at some stage in our life, but what I saw...
Well, some of us less than others.
Well, no, some of us have written a book about it, Adrian, but no one likes a self-publicist.
And I've read them both. I think that this ability to be vulnerable and wrong and human is what they've shown us in that interview. I believed every word of it. I don't believe they were mincing their words. They did announce at the beginning of the interview that they weren't being paid for it.
They want to get their version of events on the record. And
they want to get their version of events on the record to appeal to the reasonable, sensible, rational, nuanced thinkers in society, which are fewer and fewer and fewer.
The British media's relentless assault on Prince Harry and Meghan reveals a deeper, more troubling erosion of national empathy, where complex human experiences are reduced to sensationalist headlines and performative outrage. Their courageous decision to prioritise family safety over institutional expectations represents a profound rejection of toxic systems that have historically silenced and marginalised vulnerable individuals, particularly those from diverse backgrounds. Royal Trauma, the Sussexes, Painful Revelations. In their groundbreaking Oprah interview, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle laid bare the traumatic internal dynamics of the British royal family, exposing deeply troubling narratives that shook the institution's carefully cultivated public image. Meghan candidly revealed her struggle with suicidal thoughts during her time in the palace, a vulnerable admission that was met with a stunning lack of compassionate support from the monarchy, highlighting the emotional isolation she experienced within the royal system. Even more shocking were the conversations about their son Archie's potential skin tone, with an unnamed senior royal reportedly expressing concerns about how dark the child might be, a revelation that laid bare the underlying racial tensions within the royal household. These explosive disclosures, combined with their ultimate decision to step away from royal duties, painted a picture of an institution fundamentally unable to adapt, protect, or genuinely embrace difference, ultimately forcing the couple to prioritize their mental health and family's well-being over traditional royal expectations. The Sussex Saga, a compassionate perspective on family fractures. In the midst of media frenzy and public speculation, caller Adrian's poignant perspective cuts through the noise, urging a more empathetic understanding of the Sussex family's complex dynamics. He argues that the public should recognise the profound human element at the heart of their story, not as tabloid fodder, but as real people experiencing genuine familial pain and difficult personal choices. Adrian suggests that our collective compassion should extend beyond sensationalism, seeing Harry, Meghan and their extended royal family as individuals navigating extraordinarily challenging emotional terrain, where differences in perspective, loyalty and personal identity have created deep, irreparable rifts that transcend the glamorous veneer of royal life. The media's manipulation hearts and headlines. The angriest media wields an insidious power to shape public perception, transforming complex human narratives into digestible, inflammatory soundbites that prey on society's most base instincts. Without nuanced understanding, the public becomes susceptible to media manipulation, consuming sensationalized stories that reduce deeply personal struggles to mere entertainment, obscuring the genuine human experience beneath provocative headlines and manufactured outrage. This systematic erosion of empathy allows media outlets to control emotional responses, turning intricate personal journeys into simplified, polarizing narratives that serve commercial interests rather than genuine human connection, effectively turning compassion into a consumable commodity that breeds division instead of understanding. The Crown's Constraints, a personal journey of authenticity and resistance. The fundamental schism between the Sussexes and the traditional royal family stems from profoundly divergent interpretations of institutional duty and personal loyalty. Where the monarchy historically demanded absolute conformity and silent endurance, Meghan represented a paradigm shift. A modern woman unwilling to sublimate her authentic self beneath archaic protocols and unspoken expectations. Her struggle was not merely about adapting to royal life, but about maintaining her fundamental identity while navigating an institution built on generations of suppressed individualism. The royal framework demanded she become a performative version of herself, a carefully curated figure who would prioritize the institution's reputation over her personal well-being, a demand that fundamentally contradicted her sense of self-preservation and personal integrity. This clash was never simply about protocol or etiquette, but a deeper, more existential conflict between institutional tradition and individual autonomy, a tension that would ultimately prove irreconcilable. The Eroding Compassion, a Nation's Moral Decline. The United Kingdom's trajectory towards becoming a society marked by diminishing empathy and understanding is deeply troubling, as exemplified by the treatment of Harry and Meghan. Adrian's poignant observation about the nation's waning compassion strikes at the heart of a broader societal issue. Our collective ability to extend genuine human understanding seems to be rapidly deteriorating. It's not merely about the Sussexes, but about a fundamental shift in how we perceive and treat those who are different, those who challenge established norms, or those who dare to speak their truth against powerful institutions. The erosion of compassion is not selective. It permeates our social fabric, revealing a troubling tendency to judge, vilify and marginalize individuals based on narrow perspectives and preconceived notions, rather than approaching situations with empathy, nuance and a genuine desire to understand the human experience behind the headlines. Compassion without borders, understanding shared human experiences. James artfully articulated a critical perspective that transcends individual narratives, emphasizing that compassion should not be selectively distributed based on celebrity status or social standing. By drawing parallels between the Sussexes' struggles and those of marginalized groups like refugees in dinghies or families experiencing economic hardship, he underscored the universal nature of human suffering. The core message resonates deeply. Empathy is not a zero-sum game where showing compassion for one group diminishes our capacity to care for another. Instead, true emotional intelligence requires recognizing the inherent dignity in all human experiences, whether they unfold in royal palaces or precarious boats crossing treacherous waters. This nuanced approach challenges societal tendencies to hierarchize pain, reminding us that genuine compassion knows no boundaries of privilege, nationality, or circumstance. The Sussexes, a courageous stand for family and dignity. In a moment that epitomizes personal integrity, the Sussexes demonstrated remarkable courage by choosing their family's well-being over centuries-old royal obligations, as caller Adrian eloquently articulated. Their decision to step back from the restrictive royal framework wasn't merely a personal choice, but a profound statement of prioritizing mental health, individual dignity, and familial protection. By walking away from the institutionalized expectations that threaten to compromise Meghan's emotional survival and their children's sense of identity, Harry and Meghan exhibited a level of bravery that transcends traditional royal protocols, challenging the archaic systems that have long demanded silent compliance over individual humanity. Compassion in the face of public scrutiny. Understanding personal struggles. In navigating complex personal narratives, it's crucial to recognize the profound emotional toll that public exposure can take on individuals, particularly those experiencing intense personal challenges. Mental health support becomes paramount, especially for those who find themselves under relentless media scrutiny and familial pressure. Resources like counseling services, mental health hotlines, and support groups can provide critical lifelines for individuals wrestling with feelings of isolation, anxiety, and emotional distress. For those feeling overwhelmed by personal struggles, whether related to family dynamics, professional challenges, or public perception, seeking professional emotional support is not a sign of weakness, but a courageous step towards healing and self-preservation.